I said that for fiscal year 2020, there's a proposed 4.75% wishing to speak on the countywide millage rate and budget. I have a number of speakers. So let's first start with Jeannie O'Grady.
Good evening, everybody. I'm here to talk about animal care. I was here the last time, so I'm here again. Anyway, I'm here to talk about, in your budget, to please provide spade and neuter funds for this county. As of now, there is no funding for spade and neuter. We have 2 spade vans sitting at Broward County that are unused. Everybody knows that to control population in this county, be it strays on the street or anybody else, that free spade and neuter has to happen. Miami's done it before. They've reduced their numbers. We're not going to reduce numbers unless we have a free spade and neuter program for every single animal in this county. It's over $70 to spade and neuter in the private sector. Most people are not going to spend that to get their animal spayed. If they know it's free, they're going to be coming down here and they're going to get their animals taken care of. So that definitely, I take care of 3 cat populations on the street in Margate at night, and probably over 70 cats in there. I have 50 cats now to spade. At $70 a piece, I'm going to have to lay out $3,000 of my money to take care of that. So please consider spade and neuter. Consider getting that van, those 2 vans that are sitting idle, that taxpayers paid for, and getting those up and running.
14.
Second off, Broward County Shelter is deplorable, the conditions down there. There is no rescue coordinator right now. Lorelei Combs has sat on this and has not appointed anybody. The staff is doing nothing to get those animals out. We are spending our own time and money to get the animals out. All these rescue people back here are working every single day to get 1, 2, 3 animals out maybe. I'm just going to tell you the kill rates for July down there. 216 animals were killed down there in July. Pay attention, 216 animals. This is supposed to be no kill, and it's not no kill. 175 cats were killed, and also 43 dogs were killed. That's not a no-kill situation. Something has to be done down there. Management has to change. That's the bottom line. $6 million a year you're spending of our tax dollars for what? And also, lastly, I just wanted to say real quickly, all you need is a driver's license down there to adopt a dog. This was Stormy, a dog that was adopted out by Broward County Care. Anyway, returned back with burn marks all over her back and then was getting ready to be killed by Broward County. I got a rescue to take her with $900 of my money to pull her out. Now she's in a board and train situation. The driver's license is not enough. A background check has to be done to get animals out of there. I did prepare packets for each one of you guys. If you want to read them over, you're more than welcome. Please take a cup of coffee. This isn't an email.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Okay, please read this.
Diana Cariello.
Should I just pass these
Right here.
around, or?
Give it over to her, please.
Read it.
And after Diana, we'll have Karen Sands will be next. Please, go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commission. My name is Diana Cariello, and I've been a Broward County homeowner for over 20 years. It has come to my attention that Broward County Animal Care has failed to achieve its no-kill promise made back in 2012 when we gave them millions for a new facility. It's almost 2020, and this policy, which is antiquated and inhumane, tarnishes the county's image. I'll tell you that. I've been told this personally by people who visit Florida, who visit me. It makes you look terrible. I'm sorry. I'm here today in defense of the animals. They did not ask to be brought into the world. None of us do. Actually, yet, we're all here, and as such, we must coexist peacefully. We need a resolution that shows our community values life as well as its residents. That just doesn't exist if we keep up with our current status quo. We, as a community, want our no-kill promise to be kept. There is no honor in dishonesty, no honor in killing. And yes, I say killing, as euthanasia literally means good death and should never be mistaken for the convenience killing that occurs at Broward County Animal Care on a daily basis. It is only used to end irredeemable suffering. Over 1,400 innocent souls were lost in just this past fiscal year. The sad reality is that most were completely healthy. Others required medical treatment that could well have been addressed with the $1 million surplus in the facility's budget. Kittens being killed for lack of a bottle feeder, dogs dying with simple ringworm and the like. This is shameful and unacceptable, and the good people of Broward County will not tolerate this any longer. I'm a long-distance transporter. I transport all over Florida. I'm the person who saved the aforementioned dog, Stormy, from that shelter. I took her on her freedom ride. I go all over the state. Sometimes I spend from dawn until midnight on the road. That's what I do. It's what I'm able to contribute. I can't complain about no kill, after all, if I'm not willing to do my part. Of course, my animals are all fixed. Sorry. I can see firsthand how that dog changes as soon as they leave that awful place and breathe in the sweet air of freedom. I have to say we ousted our last lying director, and with all due respect, it's time for the current director to be shown the door before any more precious lives are lost. You know, as easy as it is to fire a director, it's even easier to vote out commissioners who we have no confidence in, who don't respect the wishes of those who have elected them to their public office.
Thank you.
My tax dollars support this travesty. I'm not seeing a favorable return on my investment in any market that should prompt a change and give us the no-kill. I'm sorry, and the time for a change has come. Please do the right thing. Give us that no-kill that you promised. You owe it to the animals.
Thank you.
Okay?
Next will be Karen Sands.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I have a letter to read. This gentleman could not be here today, so I'm going to read this on his behalf. My name is PJ Ward, and I am the trainer director for Through the Leash Dog Training and Behavior. I have a team of trainers located in different locations throughout the U.S. and South Florida is one of those locations. Throughout each of our markets, we take time out to connect with many different shelters and rescues who have the same goal as we do, which is to save the lives of as many dogs as possible, one dog at a time. Our goal is to intervene and help many of the dogs in the shelter that some say are not adoptable. Through our years in the field of dog training, we have saved many of those same dogs' lives by a matter of instilling a line of communication and establishing trust with those dogs. We have found through effective communication and consistency that many of the dogs that were deemed unadoptable are truly not, this is truly not the case. We have a group of trainers who take pride in saving lives and would love to come and help evaluate these dogs at the county shelter. We provide discounted rates. We do free consultation for every single shelter or rescue that we work with, because these are the dogs that have the least chance of getting the help that they need to survive. I believe all shelters and or rescues should set aside monies to truly give these dogs a second chance that they deserve. Our team is more than willing to help evaluate and save as many dogs as possible, and I am sure that there are many other trainers in the area that would like to do the same. This is the reason that our trainers do what we do. You have the full support from Through the Leash Dog Behavior and Training Team. Best, PJ Ward. Now I have to tell you, Stormy, one of the said dogs who is going to be our poster dog here. Stormy was considered extremely prey-driven at the shelter, to the point where you could not even hold her back if she saw another dog. I saw a video of her last week with the trainer playing for 3 minutes with a dog and having the time of her life. And she has been out of the shelter, how long has it been, 3-4 weeks? It's been about 4 weeks now. She has been in training. For the first week, she went into a foster home. Then she's been in training for about maybe 2.5, 3 weeks. This dog had completely turned around, This is only one dog, but every dog matters. And I had one question for Bertha, please.
I'm sorry, I got to leave everybody, by law, I got to commit everybody by time, so if you want to just wrap up.
Can you clarify the pet clinic information about what exactly that will entail eventually? Can you?
When we're done, when the
Yeah.
speakers are done, we can come back and
Okay.
get it clarified.
All right, thank you.
Next will be Frank Tamero, and after Frank will be Debbie Saratello.
Good evening. How are you all doing?
Good evening.
Good. I'm here to speak on behalf of the animal control situation as well. I was a former volunteer in animal care for over a year, at which time I spent a lot of hours on the weekends going into animal care, helping the staff as a volunteer, cleaning, working with dogs, trying to analyze dogs, getting dogs out. Recently, I was asked not to come back to animal care. I was not given a reason why. My belief is because I disagreed and backed up some of the things that are being said here today. That's in the past. I move forward. I now work with these fine people in rescue on the outside. My concern is what continues to happen inside. And I believe with this budgeting, we need to work on the staff. That shelter needs more staff. As I went in there and the volunteers are doing all the work inside that shelter, I see conditions in that shelter that are deplorable. Now, whether you like animals or not, that's on you. So this, to me, becomes, are people doing their jobs? Are they being held accountable for their jobs? Is that administration being held accountable for their job? And to me, that means, do you have enough staff? Is your staff scheduled? Do you have a rescue coordinator? Do you have a qualified volunteer coordinator work with your volunteers? So maybe we start at administration. Like I said, it's not about your caring about animals. It's about the people who are hired and paid with our taxpayer money doing their job. And that's what I question. I believe that's what you all need to question. Not telling you how to do your jobs. Maybe go in without a warning. Maybe if you went without telling them and they weren't cleaning the place up before you got there, maybe it would be you'd see something that I see and that they all see. So that's my ask. Hold people accountable for their jobs. If you hold the people accountable for their jobs, then the conditions there will change. I can name 100 dogs that I took out of there, worked with on the outside and better. A dog named Heidi, a big mastiff, was padlocked in her kennel, deemed dangerous, vicious, unapproachable. The staff would not go near her for fear of being thin. I walked into that kennel one day. I leaned on her kennel for 10 minutes. That dog started to sniff me. I got a staff member to open that kennel for me, at which point they told me, you are now at your own risk. You are now at risk in your... I said, okay. I sat inside that kennel with that dog for 15 minutes. That dog licked my face after 15 minutes. Today, that dog and her sister, who were deemed too dangerous, Heidi now lives with a wonderful couple and their 4-year-old daughter. I can show you pictures of Heidi sitting on a sofa licking that little girl's face. There's just one. So if they had proper people analyzing the dogs, evaluating and vetting the dogs, things might be better. So my ask to all of you is maybe to reevaluate the administration at the shelter, and maybe things will get better. I appreciate you giving me the time. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, sir. Debbie Saratello. I'm sorry? Oh, she passed? Okay. Darlene Mars.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing us to speak on behalf of the animals that can't. The greatness of a nation can be judged by the way its animals are treated. These words are written on the Broward County Animal Care wall. I went in on Sunday to rescue a dog that was going to be put down on Monday. The dog is fantastic. This was the first time I was at Broward County Animal Care, and The conditions there are disgusting. There is urine on the floor in each cage. It smells. The animals are undernourished. They're all very thin. The staff does not know about each animal. I was told that our dog was aggressive. He is not. I was told that he had problems that he does not. They did not even want to bring him out because they were afraid of him. He is lovable, he is young, and he would be dead today if I wasn't there on Sunday to get him. We can do better, and we have to. It's $6 million of the money that we put in to make sure that these animals are cared for, and we need to do better for them and for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Darlene Mars. Oh, I'm sorry. Rita Lipoff.
Wow, that is a tough group to follow, and I'm kind of surprised. I thought our shelter was a no-kill shelter. That is not why I'm here to speak. I'm here to speak about the budget and the use of county funds. I object to anyone being allowed to maintain their county employment when they do not meet the minimum requirements of a job and or when they provide false information on a job application. And this is never people that are getting the living wage. These are people that are earning $165,000, $110,000, and many others. And just think if you would take those funds and provide that for proper animal care. I do not think we should be killing animals or not caring for animals the way this group has just expressed. I'm somewhat shocked by that. I really did think that was a no-kill shelter, and I thought a lot of money was spent on that. I actually was going to suggest a lot of other things that the money could be provided for, and I have spoken to several commissioners, and I saw an article that statements were pulled from a commission meeting in the Sun Sentinel about the fact that Broward County is providing very expensive online resources for free to non-Broward County residents. So every $70 from there could be used for a free service that will make for less stray animals. $500,000 from those e-resources that are provided to non-Broward County residents, that would be enough to supplement or replace what the Children's Services Council used to provide for an after-school program. So I am asking that all of you on the commission see that every dollar is spent properly and not wasted. And there are just many things we need in this county that the money could be better spent. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia Leiden. Hi, Patricia.
How are you? Sorry. Hi, Steve. I think it's quite clear this meeting is really about Lorelei Combs. She makes $125,000 a year. She obviously doesn't put it in her pocket to do the right thing when you have people that are going beyond what is expected of them to do something that's so innocent. When you have something innocent, we have a responsibility to do the right thing. I can't basically fire her, but I think that with Bertha Henry, she can fire her. And if Bertha Henry doesn't fire her, then she needs to wind up getting fired herself. This is not okay when you have everybody here that's telling you there's bad things going on, and people are putting deaf ears to it. We're not here to say, or schmooze over something, because there's some innocent animals that are needing the help from all of us. But you're responsible because you're the ones that can do something. So understand something. What does shelter mean? It's to protect, to take care of. We're not putting them in a shelter to let them feel fear, let them have horrible things happen to them before they die and leave this world. We all leave this world. And when we do leave this world, we're not going to be going and leaving this world thinking about what I could have got from you. We'll be thinking about how I could have done better. And people don't do better. They sit there and they think somebody else should do the job for them. You have a lot of people here that can, and more than that are sitting back here. I promise you, you get a whole bunch of people that doing the nonprofit that will tell you that this woman here, Ms. Combs, is killing dogs last minute, not even giving people a chance to come and save them. She's not helping with the nonprofits. People are screaming and crying because they're emotional, because they care. But this woman, Bertha, forgive me, but this woman Combs, she's not caring. You're responsible to overlook this. You can fire her. She's obviously smoozing people and not doing the right thing. There's too many people that are letting you know that. So that's what needs to be taken heed here, because we can be a no-kill. The way people treat animals, they'll treat people the same way. If you don't care about how an animal is, you won't care about the innocence of the human being. And you could take that to the bank. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Wendy. Rosalind Greenberg. Is that the right name? Is it Rosalind Greenberg?
Sure is, Mark.
She's also known as Rosie, just so you know. I do know her.
That's right.
Rosala, Rosie.
That's right.
All right, you got it, Rosie. Take it away.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor Bogan and Vice Mayor Holness. Due to medical problems I acquired in the past few years, my need for transportation and not to be dependent on others is very important. I surely feel that there are many people in Broward County who are unable to go to various venues, doctor's appointments, meetings such as this, to speak up, etc. It means a great deal to all who have a disability. I totally believe and agree that much support for this is valuable. The TOPS program and any other ways is better than not being able to get out and be social and contribute to society. Commissioners, in your budget, please fund this so we can contribute and voice our personal experiences totally and not be a shut-in, and remain responsible and important citizens, whether it be getting to work or a social function. Even though we may be physically challenged and vulnerable, our brain still works.
Is that it? Is that it, Rosie?
That's it.
Thank you for coming before us.
You're welcome.
And your brain does work very well.
Roz, Senator Kanish Geller has a question for you.
Sure.
Very quickly, ma'am, we are funding the TOPS program. Are you familiar with the program that permits taxi cab rides?
I
Okay.
just found out about it the other day. Mr. Holness and I were talking about it, and there was a gentleman who is part of the advisory for disability, which I am part of, spoke about it, and he said that he thought that it would come together very well once it got into they were looking into it further, and he thought that it would be a very good idea to do that also.
I just wanted to make sure you knew that.
Yes, just recently.
Hold on, Vice Mayor Holness wants to.
Thank you for coming in, and your mind is working quite well. Thanks. And the conversation we had, the gentleman you mentioned thought that we should probably expand it.
Yes.
Which makes it more beneficial for folks like you. So I'm glad you actually came based on our conversation. And if we can, I know that we're doing a pilot now, and I'm hoping that we can actually move it forward even to a greater extent than we have. So someone with an incredible sharp mind as yours can be out contributing to the betterment of our community. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. And I appreciate everyone's help in here. If this goes through, it will be great.
Thank you, Rosie.
You're welcome.
Next would be Wendy Martin. I don't know if there's I'm missing your middle name here. Is that right, Wendy?
Wendy Martin, fine.
Great, okay.
Do you have a handout that's going out to each of you? We need to fund the existing voucher programs and incorporate vouchers for low and no-cost preventive care. I'm supportive of adding $1 million to the budget for the care of our homeless and neglected pets, but not in allocations proposed by the shelter director. With a little more thought in line with the goals of no-kill, taking into account the strategic plan goals, best friends assessment, and the development of an actual action plan, there are other more impactful ways to spend $1 million. The facts are we need an aggressive spay-neuter program to help reduce our pet populations, and we need to encourage pet retention by offering low and no-cost preventive care. The director says she wants to do these services herself. The truth is her division is not equipped to provide these services for the more than 500 animals in the shelter, let alone community animals. This isn't a question of whether the community desires the extra funding, but how to ensure the maximum dollars are spent in the community and not in our county bureaucracy. We need to fund the existing voucher programs that have not been funded since May 15, 2019. That means TNR, RTF, and community services are not being provided. Even if the fort was being used at the Humane Society before Hurricane Dorian, we don't really know who was using it because the voucher program had no money in it. No one knows the truth because a lack of transparency from the shelter tells us that we don't know who benefit from the services. What is evident is the director has no actual plan to address these two major issues. Giving her this money is unwise and foolish. Fund the voucher program, expand it. We asked for backup documentation about these plans. There are no plans. This is the MO of this director. You hired an unqualified and inexperienced leader for a division. It's compounded by appointing unqualified subordinates in vital programs like rescue, foster, volunteer, and enrichment, among others. It was recently stated to me, what would we do if the county dismissed her? And my response is, the status quo would be maintained, just like when Thomas Adair left. This director is no closer to reaching no-kill than any of her predecessors. Instead of killing like previous directors, she's hoarding. She doesn't have enough staff in an overcapacity facility. 8 part-time workers isn't going to get us there. In over 18 months, she's implemented no actual plans to achieve no-kill. Fund the vouchers, add a voucher for preventive care, and quite frankly, find a new director.
Thank you. Joanne Owen. After that, Cheryl Ellis, you're on deck.
Good afternoon. I'm Joanne Oyen.
Good afternoon.
I've lived in Broward County since 1980, and in full disclosure, I am on the Animal Care Advisory Committee because of Commissioner Geller. I got off a red-eye flight this morning from California, on which I didn't sleep. I'm only here because of cappuccino. So my notes are pretty scribbled, and I'm going to talk fast. I am against the allocation of nearly $300,000 for these forts when we have 2 that have been severely underutilized. I've seen the numbers. There has been a really low number of spay and neuters done, surgeries, for the amount of time these forts have been either sitting at the shelter or over at the Humane Society. The shelter has been severely staffed for over a year. I noticed this a year ago last July, July of 2018. I walked around and around a long time. I couldn't find any employee in the kennel areas. I thought for sure the new director would remediate the situation. I understood that she left a lot of money, though, still on the table. Why didn't that happen? I know it takes a long time, from what I've heard, to go through the interviewing process with the county, the background checks. But fast forward to January of this year, I literally spent 1 hour and 40 minutes walking around in the back kennel areas with a list of 8 urgent dogs with their names, their ID numbers, and their pictures. I wanted to see these dogs, take their pictures, and try to promote these dogs. I didn't find one of them. I walked up and down every row of every unit. I looked in every kennel card, which, by the way, a lot of those kennel cards show the name unknown, if you want to call it a name. for up to 5 weeks since the dogs were brought in there. Why does it take so long to give the dog a name? An hour and 40 minutes, and in that time I went back and forth out to the lobby. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I waited in line because the people in the lobby, the staff, were so busy. And I asked them, please, is there anyone working back in the kennels? And the answers I got were pretty stunning. They said, somebody should be there. And I'd go back and look again. And I finally started asking for the director in the lobby on that Saturday, right after a community meeting took place. I was told that either they didn't know where she was or they thought she had left for the day. Nobody was home. It was disturbing. An hour and 40 minutes. Nobody in the back kennel areas. Now, I could just go on and on. The Best Friends report that I understand, Lorelei Combs claims that she requested to be done to bring in the Best Friends Animal Society, recommends numerous things. What has been done? I mean, there's so many things going on that are so disturbing. One of the things they brought up is the kennels need to be disinfected after the animals are taken out. That is not being done. Instead, high-powered hoses are being used on these animals, many of whom are frightened. They may never have seen the person using a high-powered hose. I don't think any of us would appreciate a high-powered hose coming at us. I think we would all react in some way. Instead, these animals are labeled reactive. They go from a green dot to a yellow dot. Next thing you know, they're brought back into isolation and they're killed. This is not right. And what about volunteers being fired? Some of the best volunteers at that shelter, like Frank Tamero, who is the best person that the shelter has had over there since I've been on the Animal Advisory Committee, have been fired. Nobody can handle dogs like Frank, and they love him. I am asking for the reinstatement of these volunteers. It's a travesty what's been going on. And I'll fast forward because I know I'm almost up. But this director was brought in with no directorial experience, no budget management experience, no transparency, and I myself, 2 times during the month of July, I went over on Sundays with treats, and I was bullied, intimidated, and I was told to stop. That's ridiculous.
Thank you, Joanne. Cheryl Ellis. And next, after Cheryl, will be Sloan Cowart. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi.
Welcome.
My name is Cheryl Ellis. I've been a resident of Broward County since 1986. I am also a registered voter. To begin with, the shelter is not ADA compliant. There's a lot of problems with opening the doors. There is a green button that is supposed to provide automatic door opening. It has not worked since the shelter has been opened. Okay, and insofar as the animals and their behavior, you may not be aware, but they have been reduced to feeding the animals 1 meal a day, down from 2. No snacks are allowed while the dogs are in their areas, simply because they are saying the dogs throw up. The dogs do not throw up. The more you feed an animal, just as the more you feed a human being, the more they will go to the bathroom, which makes cleanup very difficult. What we are suggesting is that you repurpose the budget, at least somewhat, to account for ADA, so that handicapped people like myself can easily get in and out of the different areas of the shelter, which they cannot. Often I have to rely on somebody to open the doors for me because I don't have the physical strength to handle that. With regards to the transparency of the shelter, there is a failure to be transparent as far as euthanasia, the reasons for that. I know that seems to be a little difficult for some people to take in. However, they instituted a program called Pathways, in which not only the marketing coordinator, but the foster care coordinator, volunteer coordinator, and others were supposed to submit 3 rescue blasts to all available 501c3s to be able to remove the problem animal and to be able to deal with it on their own terms. Instead, this is falling on the volunteers and the public. You've already heard the offer of a licensed operating dog trainer. They operate not only in Florida, but also in Ohio. If you can extend the staff to at least double, you might get some better responses. One of the last things I would like to comment on is an x-ray machine was donated last year to the clinic. It has never been taken out of the box. It has never been used. They have declined to return it to Friends of Broward Animal Care, And by increasing the clinic, that's not going to increase usage of something that they begged to have donated to them, and they never took out of the box. I'm going to conclude just by saying, please, they have promised many things to the community. The community turns to us, the people who reach into their pockets, not the people who are paid. Do you have any questions? Otherwise, I'll excuse myself.
No, thank you,
We're
Cheryl.
good?
Thank you, Cheryl. Sloan Cowart? Did I pronounce that right?
Good evening, everybody. Money allocated to animal care must be spent on the welfare of our shelter animals, which it has not under the current leadership. Kennels still remain understaffed, resulting in 200-plus dogs sitting in deplorable conditions. The director continues to kill adoptable animals, many without rescue pleas. She lacks the skills to manage a shelter or a budget. She came on board with zero experience with neither of these skills, and it shows. Just walk the kennels. Funds for the upcoming fiscal year must be invested in programs, hiring of qualified and compassionate staff. This has not and will not happen under this director. The request for funding a pet clinic isn't serving the needs of the shelter animals. The director must first and foremost address the medical needs of the animals within the care of the shelter, which she has repeatedly failed to do. There is no preventative care being given nor medical treatment of sick dogs at our shelter. Many of us have scrambled to save many very sick dogs and at-risk dogs on our own time and with our own money, despite the blatant lack of cooperation and compassion from the current director. Funds for a spay-neuter van costing taxpayers $300,000 is irresponsible spending, while 2 mobile fort units sit idle for the past 18 months, which have already cost $100,000 each. The facility in Pompano, also sitting idle for 18 months, should be used for 24-hour neonatal care and dogs who are not sheltering well in the main facility. Many citizens pay out of their own pockets now for spay-neuter since the shelter ran out of funds in May, only halfway through the fiscal year. Why are you giving her more money to squander on things rather than investing in the infrastructure and building off that platform? This current director has created a chronic and deplorable hoarding facility, which she cannot adopt her way out of. She has driven a wedge between the shelter and the community. She has dismissed experienced longtime volunteers and turned down free spay-neuter help by local veterinarians. Commissioners, if you cannot recognize deplorable and mismanagement, then you are sadly detached and non-committed to the welfare of our shelter animals. By giving money to this director, you are enabling the lack of transparency and accountability, which is resulting in ongoing suffering and killing of adoptable animals. Conditions are getting worse for the animals with no positive end in sight after 18 months with this director, and you are going to give her more money for things. The shelter doesn't need more things, it needs a new director. As a taxpayer and concerned citizen for the welfare of the shelter animals, I am demanding the dismissal of the current director. We must work together to find a competent and compassionate director who will partner with the community to find positive outcomes for the shelter animals. Don't continue to fail the animals in the community. Our homeless shelter animals need new leadership now. Her time is up. And some of you are up for re-election too next year. Remember that.
I think it's Hale or a cameraman? Hale. Got it right. Not too good with the pronunciation.
It's a weird name.
No, it's cool.
My name is Hale Kammerman. I'm also a Broward County resident and also a registered voter. On the car ride over here, I kind of prepared what I needed to say. I did not type up a speech. The reason for being here today is when I went to donate some items to the Broward County Animal Control, I repeatedly called there for 3 days. I could not get anybody to answer the phone. Of course, I was able to Google the address and get over there. What I wanted to find out was if what I was wanting to donate was acceptable. You know, this, just like any other business, needs to have the phones answered. I hear all these stories about these animals that are being put to sleep because they're unadoptable or nobody's adopting them. If somebody's calling here and nobody's answering, then their next phone call is to the next business right down the street, which is Humane Society or any other shelter. When I asked the volunteer at the front counter why she didn't answer the phone, because I called it right in front of her and it rang right there at the counter, she said, "We're not allowed to." And I said, "That doesn't make any sense. Why would you not be allowed to?" So I spoke with a woman, and I do not remember her name. She said she was the assistant to Lorelei. She said they had one volunteer that was not answering the phones properly. If you hire somebody at $10 an hour for 40 hours a week, that comes out to $20,800 per year. If you hire 2 people, so you've got 2 people answering the phones at all times, you're talking about a total of $45,000 out of a $6 million budget. There is no business that can operate without its phones being answered. So if people cannot reach this facility, they cannot find out if a dog is available, if they've got a question about bringing a dog, if they've got a question about picking up an animal. There's no way to do it. And this went on for 3 days. I also recommended, if they're so short on money, they said they have no room in the budget for to hire somebody. I said, why don't you have the volunteers answer it? And that's when they said they're not allowed to. Humane Society and Plantation Dog Park, as well as other facilities, but these 2 I happen to know personally, have a brick paver walkway where you can purchase a brick. My dog deceased, I purchased one at Humane Society for $250 and one at Plantation Dog Park for $60. A simple walkway that is 10 foot by 10 foot. If you can imagine how small that is the size of most people's bathroom. 10 by 10 comes out to $45,000 per year if you sold each paver at only $100. There's certainly money to be made to accommodate having somebody answer the phone, and or if you really wanted to raise some money to feed these pets or keep them on longer without having them put to sleep, a simple 10-foot by 50-foot winding walkway of pavers where people can purchase them for their deceased pets would donate to the facility $900,000 when all were done. It's 9,000 pavers for 2 walkways, and each paver sells for $100. Humane Society and the dog park are filled with these pavers, so people certainly do buy them. My time's up. Thank you.
Thank you, Hale. Okay. The only comment, I'm going to bring it back to the dais. I've got 3 speakers in queue. And the only thing I want to add, that since I read from what we just mentioned about the millage rate, just want to make it clear that the county commission has not raised the millage rate. And the only reason taxes have gone up is the property values have gone up. With that, I'll start with Commissioner Sharif.
Ms. Henry, is there anybody that could answer some questions that I have regarding the animal care shelter?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I want to know how many staff members are paid and there on a regular basis, working there full time?
So if I can have Ms. Lorelei come to the podium.
Who's this?
That's Lorelei, Ms. Kwong.
She's the director?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi.
Comes.
How many paid staff do you have?
85.
Thank you. And then how many volunteers do you have?
Over 500.
You know what? That's not.
You know what? Wait, hold on. Folks, you're either going to have to be respectful or I'm going to have you leave. So please be respectful. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
We have those listed in Volgistics. They're all registered. We also have over 350 that are registered as active.
Okay. And I hear the 85 paid staff, are they full-time?
Yes.
How many animals do you have right now?
Over 400.
And how many euthanasias have we had this year?
Year total, I
Yes.
don't have that off the top of my head, but last month, 107.
Okay. I'm going to make a statement, and that was that when we sat on this dais and we we aspired to be a no-kill county, but we never said we were a no-kill county. We are trying to get there, and we've been putting things in place ever since. What is your cleaning schedule like in your facility?
We clean in the morning, and then we spot clean during the day.
Okay. And how many meals do the animals get?
They get 1 meal a day.
Okay. And is that the norm?
Yes, it is for shelters.
Right.
Some pets that are owned personally, I'm sure people feed them twice a day. I personally fed my dogs once a day.
If an animal has feces in their cage on any given time, how many people would be working to maintain these 400 animals at any given point in time? So,
Well, there could be 12 to 18 people on staff in the kennels. We also have volunteers that come in and help us. So it changes. Usually every row would have 2 or 3 in a row.
Okay. You know, I just have to say, Lorelei, I don't know you and you don't know me. I mean, I know of you because we hired you, and I don't come to the kennel because I'm allergic to dogs and cats. But I find this extremely difficult to listen to people lobby insults and accusations on a regular basis and in a public forum. And I just wondered sometimes when they come up here and say these things, how they would feel if somebody did that to them at their job. I also don't care for the threats either, but I want you to know that this county commission was dedicated and committed to trying to make sure that there was a place for our animals and a better place. I've heard people saying that you're killing animals unnecessarily and then calling you a hoarder. Well, which one is it? Are you hoarding or killing? If you're hoarding them, that means you're keeping them around a long time, trying to see if you can get somebody to adopt them. If you're killing them, I would say that you'd have a lot less than 400 animals in the kennel right now. So I'm going to say to you that as a county commissioner, I am supportive of you and what you're doing. I think caring for animals is a very difficult thing because people get very emotional. More so, people get emotional about animals more than they do human beings. I have been on this county commission for almost 9 years now, and I haven't seen this level of participation when we're talking about homelessness and we're talking about housing issues and human beings. So I would have to say that this is probably a very emotionally charged thing. I also know that when I had the issue in my district, which after we implemented this, we were euthanizing over 1,100 animals in a year in my area of the county. And so I think that has decreased substantially, which is why I am extremely supportive of you. I want you to know that on this dais. I also want to dispel something else that was said here previously at the first budget hearing, and that is that we don't respond to emails. For me, Commissioner Michelle Lazaro is in my district, and I saw Michelle at the Martin Luther King parade. She didn't tell me anything about these animals. She didn't say she sent emails, and I hadn't gotten any emails. So I can't stand it when people come up here and make accusations and allegations and don't have anything to support it. I also would like you to know that if you need other resources, that my door is open for you to come and ask for them.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I want you to also understand that if bringing volunteers in from the street is not providing consistency for you to provide the level of care that you want or need, then let us know that too. But I really think that you have probably one of the most difficult jobs in Broward County because it's the job that nobody wants. Everybody wants to critique, and nobody really knows what it's going to take to get us where we want to be. And this was an experience for us. This is a new undertaking for Broward County to try to become a no-kill county. And I said we aspire to become a no-kill county, not that we are there yet. And so if we can't, and if we don't have the capacity to house 1,000, 2,000 animals, and we can't adopt them out, then there's no way to continue this. And I'm just really amazed at how much you've taken and how much you've put up with. I don't think a person's salary should be attacked like that. I can only imagine that, these people who have come here that have lobbied these complaints, we had this position posted, and if they could have done a better job, I would have loved to have seen an application. But it is what it is at this point, and, you have my full support as a county commissioner here. Whatever I can do to help you, I will. And that's pretty much what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please. Lorelei, can you stay up there, please? Generally, we don't really want any applause. If you want to wave your hands, I appreciate it. Can I ask you a couple quick questions?
Yes.
Is it so? There are a lot of different shelters all over this country. Is there a standard of practices that that differ? Are they usually the same? When you run a shelter here, would that be the same as running a shelter in Chicago or anywhere else?
Well, it all depends on your budget. It also depends on the time of year, how many pets you have. But there are best practices, and that's something we've been attempting to implement since the very beginning.
So I have just a couple quick questions.
Sure.
In best practices, a lot of times when I get emails from people who are upset with the shelter, it shows pictures of urine or dog feces in the kennel. Is the best practice cleaning it just in the morning and then spot checking it later, or is it twice or 3 times a day? Do you know what best practices are?
It's cleaning in the morning and then spot cleaning in the afternoon.
What does spot cleaning mean?
That means you go in with a little shovel and you pick up the poop.
So that actually happens more than once a day.
As often as the dog needs.
Okay.
Now, if they are sick and they have diarrhea, they're going to play in it, it's going to be spread around a little bit more.
Okay, and 1 meal per day, is that best practices versus a lot of the other places?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to go to Commissioner Geller.
Thank you, Mr.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I have you down.
Okay. First, I did want to say that there were two statements made that I just had to correct. One of our speakers said that we have no spay-neuter program here. I would agree that it's underfunded, but to say that there is no program is simply not accurate. Also, that we had 2 forts there doing nothing. It's my understanding, and Mr. Sneezak, I'm basing this on the memo that I've received from you, Ms. Coombs, if it's not accurate, please correct what I'm saying. One of those 2 forts was based on a grant that specifically limited that it could only be used for certain cat purposes, but that it also couldn't be used under the terms of the grant until it had been fitted out, and we needed to wait for the remainder of that grant to fit it out. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
And the second fort has, in fact, been used, although sometimes it's back there, but it is not as movable as people think because it requires moving it with special equipment. It requires setup, and that, in fact, I saw that it had been at the Humane Society for a while, and there were a great number of spay-neuters performed with that. Is that accurate?
Yes, over 2,000.
Okay, thank you. Now, having listened, yes?
Over 2,000 what?
At 2,000
Spays or
spay-neuters
neuters.
at the fort that they said isn't being used.
So we essentially have 2 forts, if you call them that. The one fort is all loaded up with equipment for spaying and neutering, and that's being used in the Humane Society's parking lot. They've done over 2,000 surgeries. The second fork is essentially an empty shed that's filled up with supplies. We were using it for storage because we did not have the money to outfit it for the kitten nursery. However, with our Petco grant of the $250,000, part of that will be outfitting that nursery, also moving it up to Pompano as we move forward to opening that clinic open with a 501, as we are moving forward with that too.
Okay. 2 more quick items. I agree that the spay-neuter program is underfunded. And my understanding is that there has been a substantial problem getting paid from specifically Pet Supermarket and other veterinarians. According to because I was listening what y'all were talking, I had met before the last budget hearing, and I've met since the last budget hearing with representatives of the animal community. I'm taking what you're saying seriously. It's my understanding from the county attorney's office that we were owed $343,651.25. Does that amount sound correct to you?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And it's my understanding, county attorney's office, please verify that demand letters have been sent and that you are working aggressively to recoup that outstanding amount, which would go into the Animal Care Trust Fund, including the spay neuter. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then the last issue is, again, because I am concerned about funding the spay neuter program. Ms. Henry, in your absence, I've spoken with Monica, and I've spoken with you very, very briefly about this. Last year, there was a one-time shortfall caused by a decrease in the amount of the animal tags. There was a software error and some other issues which have resulted in a one-time, non-recurring shortfall. And it's my understanding that as this is now back online, we're expecting for the following budget year to go back to numbers, and hopefully we can increase those through some marketing things that I believe you are initiating, trying to increase the number of sales. But I have spoken with, again, primarily with Ms. Zapero in your absence, but now with you, about the possibility of trying to backfill that one-time non-recurring number, so that to ensure that right now they're supposed to have less in the spay neuter program than they did last year. And so I'm hoping that you can find somewhere in the budget the ability, again, I'm emphasizing non-recurring, to just try and backfill the number that was caused by primarily by the software glitch, so that the spay neuter program would at least have the same amount as it did last year.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sure. Commissioner Rich?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I actually have considered it a privilege to have been working with you for the past 18 months on trying to help improve the shelter. The first thing you did when you came here was to ask for Best Friends to come and do an analysis of the shelter, and they did that. So the first thing I'd like to ask you is to talk a little bit about that, what they found, and you have a strategic plan which you are implementing, which takes into account many of the recommendations. I'd like you to just kind of give us an overview of that.
Certainly.
Because there's a lot of inaccuracies in what has been said in some cases.
Best Friends is one of the largest animal welfare organizations that are very positive and come into shelters and help us all achieve a better outcome for our pets. I asked them to come and asked permission to have them come to do an assessment because I needed to know where we were. We were in between quite a few positions, and so I wanted to bring an organization in that I knew and that I could trust. And they came in November, and they sent that out in January. They noted the areas of concern that I wanted to focus on, and they confirmed some other ideas that I had. But I truly appreciated their opinion, their professional, their kindness. And one thing they did find was how willing and great our staff is to work, and as hard as they do, regardless of how they're treated, and regardless of what compliments they may rarely get. So they saw a compassionate policy there. We put in a workforce and cultural agreement that we all want to get along and be kind to each other and support each other. And they recommended that. They also came in and just oversaw our volunteer program. We did a whole booklet with them, which will be going out to volunteers shortly. They also make recommendations of what type of volunteers to keep and what type of volunteers to gather more of. So we continue to work with them. They just gave us a $10,000 grant to match yours, which I truly appreciate, which will be going in and doing low-cost wellness clinics or free in certain areas that we know where they need them the most. So that's a little bit about Best Friends.
Okay, and could you talk a little bit, the question was asked out there about what the clinic, the new clinic will be doing, the wellness clinic. Could you explain a little bit
Yes,
about
please.
what the
Thank
impact
you.
that will have and has around the country?
Absolutely.
With other places that have these kinds of clinics?
Yes, it's modeled after the Emancipet low-cost wellness clinic that's in Austin, Texas, that serves Travis County. We know the areas that need services the most. They still love their pets, but they just can't get wellness. We all know if you've taken your pet to a veterinarian, how expensive that is. Our community and our pet owners, they need low-cost wellness for their pets, just like we need low-cost health care for all of us. So we propose having a low-cost wellness clinic that will give vaccinations that are crucial to the wellness of the dogs and cats in our county, and also low-cost spaying and neutering. So we want to make this affordable, yet profitable, and open to everyone. That's a low-cost wellness clinic.
Could you talk a little bit about Pompano, because the analysis is a little different than what was mentioned here about Pompano.
Certainly. I saw Pompano probably the first month I moved here. I saw a jewel. It was under disarray from the last hurricane, and I saw a great opportunity to open it with a 501 running it that wanted to be larger, that wanted to do more. There will be specific items that they must check in this box of application, and it's going to serve our mission of no kill, which means a 90% live release rate. And they will support that by doing transports, by pulling pets from us, by helping us with low-cost wellness clinics. We have a rabies clinic there every month now. So Pompano is a jewel. It's just waiting to go through the process. So all our 501s, even national groups, will be getting that application so they too can apply. And we'll select the best group to support Broward County's mission of being no-kill.
Okay. And I also would like you to respond to the fact that it's been said that there is no vet care at the shelter.
We have two great new veterinarians. They live in Commissioner Udin's district and Commissioner Geller's district. They are shelter veterinarians. They are very good at medical care. They're very fast at surgeries. I feel very grateful to have them. It took a very long time to find them. As you know, there is a shortage of veterinarians across the United States. So we're very fortunate to have these two veterinarians with us.
And these veterinarians, it was said that pets that become ill don't get treatment in the shelter. So they treat those pets that become ill in the shelter.
Yes, absolutely. With the resources we have, we'll use every antibiotics and mixes of to try to overcome kennel cough. It continually goes round and round in our shelter. It's one dog sneezes and it's airborne. So it is a difficult disease to contain, but we continually will treat them. We put them in isolation, and we give them all the medications we can. If we feel that we're not able to care for that pet, we post that to rescue groups, and we'll continue to do that and ask the community for help.
And could you just mention about what is the situation with the x-ray machine?
We had medical equipment donated, but the medical equipment was not completely paid for. So a portion of the medical equipment, when we received a bill from the company themselves, said there's a balance due. And we were like, okay, well, we'll talk to the person that you purchased it or made the agreement with. In the process, we have been outfitting a new room for the x-ray machine. And again, it is a process. But we look forward to the day. We'll celebrate it when that is done. And we're still moving forward on that.
Okay. And lastly, could you just talk a little bit about where you are with no-kill?
Last month, we have almost 92% live release for dogs. and the cats are in the low 80%. Unfortunately, we had an episode of panleukemia again for the cats. And our policy right now, our veterinarians, they do have the right to schedule animals for euthanasia because they did take that oath to never let a pet suffer. And they will euthanize pets that we can't save, which from panleuk, the kittens.
Okay, so those are my questions, and I just want to say that foundations don't give $250,000, I don't think, to shelters that they think are not doing any kind of a decent job or a good job or a great job. I mean, I think that they were pretty clear about that. We went there last week, and you saw they came here today, but there were store managers from Jupiter on down, and they are strong, strong supporters of our shelter. So, and I think that that inures to the work that you have done and the outreach there. So I just, want to say you have my support, and we'll continue to work. We're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. We have things that we can make better, but we've come a long way since the last director was here. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Ryan?
Most of the areas of inquiry that I had were covered by the previous comments of our commissioners, but I just had a couple of questions. With regard to phone calls, phone intake and answering, what's your current policy?
I believe if they're speaking with a customer, they will not answer the phone. We do have someone who is a full-time employee that does sit in a section that customers do not have access to, and she does answer the phone. We do take a lot of messages. If they're with a customer out in the lobby or in admissions, they're not going to answer the phone. So could we use someone answering the phone all the time? Absolutely. We have a new frequently asked questions list that's just going to get started with a volunteer. So it's a pilot program right now, and they're answering questions right now at home with the frequently list of asked questions. So we will have volunteers. We just started that to answer the phone and answer questions for folks.
Right, because a lot of people make a preliminary decision on whether they want to make an on-site visit based upon some information that they'll gather with the phone inquiry. So I think that's an important aspect for public relations, for providing current information. So persons who call, they'll get, if there's somebody that's working the systems, they'll get a live one-on-one discussion on whatever the inquiry is. Mm-hmm. And then if messages are left, do you have a policy on how soon or if they are answered?
Well, they need to all be answered. And so everything is written down, and we get to it within a few days, I know for sure. Especially if it's a priority, it goes to field, and we'll send it over there to the supervisors right away.
All right. If you could come to my office in the next couple of weeks, maybe we'll have a further discussion on how your current policy is and what else you may want to implement in that regard.
Great,
and then
thank you.
With regard to unannounced visits, what level of access is provided? Say if a county commissioner were to just pop on in and take a look around.
You can come through the door anytime at 11 a.m. Walk straight to right or left. You'll see cats. Straight back, you'll see the dogs.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I just clarify one thing, and then I'm going to recognize Commissioner Furr. You say you have 85 paid staff, but you don't have people that can answer a phone all the time, and you have 500 volunteers, obviously not all working at the same time.
Right.
But I agree with Commissioner Ryan. I think it's really important if somebody's going to call and want to adopt a dog, I want to do something, and then there's a message and get back to me for a couple days maybe, I'm going to think you guys are flakes, and I'm going to have a bad impression. And I think it's important that the phones are answered all the time. I think the phones, I have staff, they answer the phones. We all have staff. Their job is to, that's our way of dealing with the public. We have to be able to be there for the public. And so I don't know how, you utilize your resources, but I certainly would encourage that that whatever you do is where the phone calls are answered, and obviously, or return that day. My own opinion. Commissioner Furr.
Thank you. I agree with that. We're doing public service here for the animals and for the public on this, and it's important for them to have that immediate response, much like what I was asking for, and you did, and thank you. Put your strategic plan on the website so that everyone knew, here's what we're trying to do, here's what's being done, here's where we're falling short, here's where we're getting to the goals. That's important. That's public service. I do think I think it's going to be incumbent upon us to try to help you have resources to do that. Because that is, if the public wants to see where we're at, particularly with no kill, euthanasia, all those kind of things, we need to be able. That's kind of what part of doing that the best strategies was. Here's what the strategies are. Here's where we're at. So you need to let us know if that's something that you need. This is the time. In other words, if you're needing resources. And sometimes it might be shared resources. Sometimes it might be somebody in our public information office that could help out. There's different ways of doing it. It doesn't have to be absolutely dedicated to animal control. But we need to find a way to make sure that we are being transparent to the public. One thing that I am a little concerned with is when I see that the number of spay and neuters is based on the number of pet tag sales during a fiscal year. I don't know why it's based on that. It should be based on need, not tag sales, because that is you're putting a limit on what the problem is. In other words, we are putting. I know we did 2,461 surgeries this year. I'm assuming those are spay and neuter. But I will tell you, by May, the vouchers that we were giving out, and we were giving out a lot, were gone. You know it, I know it. And the way that we were giving them out can be better. And I understand we're changing that strategy. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? How?
Certainly. The low-cost voucher program, you put in your income and we'll print out a voucher in 3 minutes that gives you a spay-neuter for free or from $40 to $75. Our funds ran out. They did because our tag sales dropped. Our web licensing software insisted on an upgrade, and so we started the process for those monies to get towards that, and I'm happy to say we're going to get that now and start that up again. So tag sales lacked. Our language that when we sent out notices that you were behind in your tag or your rabies vaccination softened as a request from the public, and that it was too severe to put these fines in that language. And I personally disagree with that. So the language is going to change again because, we give you 30 days to get your rabies shot done. And then we also tell you where the clinics are, where you can get a pet done for $25 or $35 if it's not altered. So I think that system needed to change and needed some upgrades. And we'll go back with the firm language because that works. It's honest. This is what's going to happen if you don't get your rabies shot. But that's why the tag sales dropped. We also had an employee change and a software upgrade. So it did affect our sales.
Okay. Would you agree that system or the spay and neuter is key, probably among all other things, to trying to get to the no-kill, correct?
I think, if you've heard before.
If you got one of the top things you're going to try to do to aspire to that, isn't that going to be one of them?
It is. Going into the community and offering no-cost or low-cost spaying and neutering for the hundreds of thousands of pets out there and their owners, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
we are
rabies
limiting
is very
that.
important.
We are limiting that to the number of tag sales. And if we really are serious about trying to get to no-kill, then we need to really consider not basing it on that. That is a pot of money for it, but that is a false equivalence of what you're trying to do there. So we need to reevaluate ourselves why we're using that number to determine how we're funding spay and neuter, in my opinion. Because I hadn't actually, I hadn't noticed that until just a few minutes ago.
Okay.
Of that, how that was done.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
Mm-hmm.
Second, do we have a job that is actually designated as a rescue coordinator?
We do. She resigned the first week of September. That job is currently posted.
Okay. And I say that because next to spay and neuter, that I would think, I'm not in this business, but I would think that the next best thing you can get is to have somebody who really knows that community, knows it up and down, and before you are having to put a dog down or a cat down, that you give it a second chance, and you're calling every rescue, every 501(c) there is possible, right?
Right, and not only that, but that you can evaluate their behavior.
Okay, yes.
Yes.
Yes. Both.
Very important.
So that is an important element, and so I don't know what we have to do to get that job filled as quickly as possible, but those two things I think are absolutely important.
I agree with you.
Okay. So lastly, this last year, we upped the number of staff by 13.
Correct.
Correct. My question to you is that enough?
Well, the more pets we save, the more staff we need, because it's a hands-on job many times. We only have room for so many pets, but as we look at staffing, I could see areas where we could possibly have more. Are there more programs I'd like to develop? Absolutely. Is there more I'd like to do? You bet. But I know how to work within my resources that are offered, and that's what we're doing right now.
Okay, so the jury's out on if 13 is enough right now. We did add that this year.
Correct.
And we may need more. And this is where it becomes, where do we put those? We don't have infinite resources. And should we be funding more on the spay and neuter? Because then you don't need as many staff.
Correct. You have less pets coming in.
Right.
As you've heard before, you cannot adopt your way into no-kill.
Right.
You need to go into your communities where we know we have, through geomapping, the largest stray dogs, the largest bites, the largest areas of disease. That's what the communities we need to be in, and we need to stay there for a while.
What is, and I'm sorry, I don't have the number in front of me. How much money is coming in through tag sales that is going into spay and neuter? Do you have a number on that?
Well, we get $3
But
per
I mean the
tag
total
sale.
number.
Overall,
And I'm sorry, I didn't give you.
maybe this year, probably 300,000.
And what do you think the demand was? Double that?
Absolutely.
Triple that?
We have a community cat problem here in Broward County, as all counties do in the South.
But is it one of those things, though, that if you front-loaded it, if you front-loaded the amount of spay and neuter that you're doing, that you can work your way down in other words, if it's a community,
right.
Broward County,
right,
and you front-load that kind of as a strategy,
yes,
and you say we're going to try to spay and neuter all the animals that we can.
In that area.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Are there other places in the United States that have tried to do something like that?
Yes.
Where they front load it so that the problem starts to diminish?
Absolutely.
Where has that been done and how does it work?
It's been done in Travis County, it's been done in Ohio, it's targeted spaying and neutering, which is what we need to do in our communities to lower the population. It cannot be random and just expected by the community who trap in all areas all over. We have to target an area, work with the trappers there, and you will start to lessen the population there by staying in that area and targeting your hotspots.
So is that strategy in our strategy?
It is.
But we're not funding that strategy.
Well, the day's not over.
Oh, there you go. That's all I have.
Okay,
But
thank you.
I appreciate that. That's kind of what I needed to hear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Udine?
Most of my questions were answered, so I'm not going to repeat all of them, but I just have a couple things because, I mean, clearly there's a lot of passion on this issue. Obviously, it fills our email boxes up, and we see people from the community on this because everyone's passionate about their animals. I like to look at more of the objective facts that we have in budgeting that we have to work with. So after the first meeting, the first budget meeting, I asked Henry to send me some of the, updated statistics in response to some of the things that I heard. So one of the comments was, and a lot of the comments were on both sides of the same issue, but one comment was that there were no volunteers, or there weren't enough volunteers, or we need to use more volunteers. And the response I got is, under current leadership, we've increased from 35 volunteers to 560 volunteers. And then since June of 2018, they have a specific number of 23,448 hours of volunteer work at the facility.
Right.
How is that documented?
Through logistics. It's a volunteer software. Everybody logs in.
Okay, so just looking at it as an objective person from the outside, opinions can be everywhere. I mean, unless there's some kind of monkey business with the login, this 23,448 hour of volunteers is the number. I mean, that's what we have, and people could say there's not enough or there's too much or whatever it is, but that's an objective number, and I see the basis in the rest of the answer as far as these are people that are working. You need certain minimum shifts that they can do,
Right.
and you've increased the net hours of volunteers. I think a lot of it goes with the perception, because, so I agree with what was said over here about answering the phones. I think that that's a key area, because your comment was, if there's someone working with a customer, they may not answer the phones, but I guess that was received in the community because they just, as to some of them, that they're not allowed to answer the phones. Clearly, that's not the policy of the facility. It's just you gave a rational reason for why they wouldn't answer the phones. But I agree here. I think we should do more in the way of resources to make sure those phones are being answered, because I think it plays differently. The X-ray machine, I'm assuming that based on your comment, there's backup documentation somewhere as far as that there was an outstanding amount owed and it couldn't be put into service. And I've seen this before. People want to donate something, they say they're going to fundraise, they're halfway to fundraising, but when the time comes, the logistics don't all come together. So your position is, at some point, if that can get worked out, that machine would, of course you're going to take it if it can be worked out and used in the facility?
Well, we have the machine. It's not a matter of when the 501 pays for it. We've just been waiting on the room to be outfitted for a digital X-ray machine.
And who's outfitting that room? Is that something that's coming from our budget, or?
Yeah, we're working with facilities, and it's just taking time.
Okay. The Pompano facility, we're trying, that in the answer, that's coming to us in the future for an upgraded budget request as far as doing something with that facility to reopen that?
We're going to propose that a 501 take it over after we grade all the applications.
Okay. The last thing, and Commissioner Farr touched on it, this fiscal year that we're in right now, we added 5 full-time and 8 part-time.
Right.
So when you came on to the facility, you increased by the 13 people to come?
And reclassified too, yes.
Okay. And that's carrying over into this 2020 budget?
Correct.
And you're going to get back to us mid-year at some point if there needs to be different adjustments that would be need to be made on that?
Yes, certainly.
Okay. That's all I have. Everything else has been covered, but I'm supportive of the idea of volunteers being passionate about this, wanting to work in whatever they do for animal rescue. I believe in that. I know you've been out and your team has been out. We've done animal adoption events out in the district. I encourage to do more of that. I agree we have to do more on the front end, but we need to do a better job working together with our volunteer community so that we can get buy-in from everybody.
Thank you.
Commissioner Fisher?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Lorelei. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
It's a couple things, and I might have missed that. Tell me about these two vans that are, they're stated that they sit idle a lot of times. Can you tell me about those?
They're plywood sheds that can be outfitted with AC and equipment that you use, and right now, the one's being used for a spay-neuter vehicle. And we trailer it over to the Humane Society, and we hook it up, and we use it for their spay-neuter program.
So it's not a, quote, van that you drive around that you're wanting to purchase?
No, it's
This
not.
is a shed, actually, you're telling me?
It is, yeah.
That's interesting, okay. And I understand the common thread here with answering the phones, and I'm in total agreement with that as well. And I also appreciate all of my colleagues' comments, especially Commissioner Sharif. I really respected her comments. I'm the new kid on the block, so I had the opportunity, of course, to come visit you. I personally did not see the feces or anything like that in the animals that were there. I walked through, we did a complete tour. I even went to the rear, although it was a very hot day, and saw the volunteers working with the dogs and so forth under those tents that are available. I understand you're going to be expanding that facility to have more of a permanency availability so the dogs can exercise and so forth?
Right, we had to take the shade down because of a looming hurricane, but they're back up.
Okay. And as I toured, I think what was sad to me was not your fault by any means, but most of the dogs that were up for adoption were of the pit bull breed. And it's sad because I think a lot of folks are uncomfortable with that type of breed, and therefore those animals sit there for long periods of time and unfortunately don't get adopted. And as you stated, if you have a small dog come in to the shelter, those are easily adopted. It's unfortunate that we have, and I think at that point there was about 80% of the dogs that were available for adoption were some sort of a pit bull breed, and that was sad to me that they come into the shelter and they're very hard to come out on the adoption basis. So, and I saw that, I witnessed that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have any comments about that or not, but.
Well, I love the dog, so I basically base my opinion on pets based on their behavior and what can I do. I don't really look at the shape of their head or what size they are. So, every dog has its own behavior type, and if you notice the dogs I bring to presentations here, they're all a mix of something. We don't have breeds on our kennel cards. We don't do DNA testing. And I just want to open it up to people adopting a pet based on their lifestyle and the animal's behavior.
I hope that people listen to that and are encouraged to come and see these wonderful animals that are there. Those today were beautiful dogs. One had obviously attraction to me. I don't know why, but it was kind of interesting.
That was Maud.
A beautiful dog. And I've committed to you when I did the visit that I want to make sure that we are moving swiftly for the Pompano location. Obviously, that's my city, so I want to make sure that, and I've talked to Ms. Henry about that and staff, so the sooner the better for me. I know the facility went through a hurricane, damage issues, and now that speaking with Henry, that is all getting worked out. So I'm so encouraged and can't wait for that 501 to take that over. Because ultimately, I saw the light in your eyes light up when we said, if we have that, we can get to that no-kill opportunities.
And sustain it.
And sustain it. So,
correct.
So excited about that. So you have my full support.
Thank you.
Whatever I can do there. And going back to Commissioner Furr's statement is, if you need something, ask for it. If we're here to help and assist any way we can.
Thank
so
you.
please don't, feel, that you can't ask staff and in this commission if we need to assist you in any way, shape, or form. So,
thank you.
Again, thank you so much for what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Vice Mayor Holness.
Thank you. Let me thank everyone for coming in this evening. This is a budget hearing, and we've heard from you. I want to especially thank Roz, senior citizen who probably took tops here, for making her way here to share her opinion with us. Razi, this is a budget process, and what we have to do is balance all the needs that exist within Broward County. Not every need is funded. Unfortunately, we would love to, but we don't have infinite amount of money to spend. So we have to prioritize between, one of the boards I sit on is the Children's Service Board, that there's tremendous needs for these children and the parents to get help and assistance from us. Many are medically ill or disadvantaged in some way that we have to find a balance for. I also sit on the HIV Planning Council that does a great job. We need to find help and support there also. Our budget covers a wide area: housing, transportation, parks, libraries, human services needs that exist so extensively here in Broward County. People who might have substance abuse or might be abused, that we need to find a way to help. So though people are passionate about their particular area, we have to be responsible enough to find a balance. A county administrator has to be responsible enough to find a balance without overtaxing the population. Ms. Lorelei Coombs, thank you for your forthrightness, for your calmness, and your openness in your responses to my colleagues. Thank you. I think I'm probably going to be the last one to have anything to question you, and I won't, because it's already been very extensive.